Welcome to the PROUST Questionnaire.
35 questions giving us insight into what makes creative people tick.
Hi, Caroline. So I'm really excited to talk to you about today's episode, which we recorded before the pandemic and the necessary social protests in the wake of the killing of George Floyd. So we did this, I think, maybe in the winter of 2019-20, something like that.
That's right. And we emphasize that because the world has changed so much since we spoke to several of our guests, including the one that whose episode we're introducing now, who is just one of the dearest friends of my heart and somebody who even before he and I were friends, I admired immensely, the fashion designer, performer, New York Times bestselling author, Isaac Mizrahi. He lives in the Village like the two of us. He is a New York character, a New York presence, and he's somebody who is enviably brilliant at every endeavor he seems to try. He had a major fashion label for a long time. He essentially anticipated the whole genre of reality TV with this film that was made about him in the early 90s called Unzipped, where a documentary film crew followed him during the making of one of his collections. He still sells Isaac Mizrahi brand clothing on the QVC Home Shopping Network and has some bricks and mortar deals, I believe, with Macy's and one other store. And most recently, he was the author of a beautiful memoir that both of us really loved called I Am. And I'm delighted that he agreed to speak to us, but he and I have spoken. He's one of the people besides you who I've talked with the most often during the pandemic. And I know that he's somebody who would have given probably some different answers or would have wanted to talk with us about George Floyd, about Black Lives Matter, about what's happening in the world today. And again, the conversation we had with him feels like now it was taken from a very different period in our nation's history.
And the podcast, what we're trying to do, sort of people tell you what they really care about. And some of it is very strange and sort of things, something you maybe didn't like this morning, and other things, they're kind of more lasting values and deeper. So I think even listening to Isaac right now, I think you'll learn more about a person who's so well known from Project Runway, from television, from the media. Everybody has sort of at some point or other bought something by Mizrahi, designed probably. But you'll discover something, and I think why we wanted him on the show is because he's so creative, active in so many different fields, and has inspired so many people, and uses his platform and his voice and visibility for so much good. So I think that's really a key of the guests we choose, and we think there are ways to change the world and make it better, and Isaac is one of those people who really believes that, right?
Yeah, oh, he absolutely is. And is a delightful conversationalist and is wickedly funny. And so I think that I haven't listened to this recording since we spoke to him in his studio in the West Village, however many months ago. But this was a favorite interview of mine just because he's a favorite person of mine. I'm delighted that we got him on the show.
And we just want to mention to our listeners, of course, most will probably know, he has Isaac Mizrahi is actually on Instagram on two accounts. One is I Am Isaac Mizrahi. It's the letter I, letter M, which is also the title of his memoir is I. And the other one is Isaac Mizrahi NY for New York, which is his commercial Instagram, but it's really wonderful to look at, actually visually and in other ways. I'm on Instagram as Uli NYC. I can't even believe I'm mentioning myself in the same breath with Isaac Mizrahi on Instagram. I occupy a tiny corner of Instagram. And the PROUST Questionnaire you can find at proust.questionnaire or proustquestionnaire.net, which is our website, where we have more information about our guests, links to books they've written. So maybe some people have encountered Isaac Mizrahi through Project Runway, but they don't know the memoir yet. It's worth checking out. And you're on Instagram as well.
I'm on Instagram as well. My Instagram handle is Caroline Weber 2020, and that's the numbers 2020 at the end of that. And I was realizing, looking at my feed just before we started this recording this introduction, that I have at least one clip on my Instagram feed of Isaac performing at the Cafe Carlyle, where he's had a regular performing gig, the legendary kind of mini jazz club in the very glamorous Upper East Side hotel, the Carlisle Hotel. He's had a gig there now for the past many, many years. And he also, damn him, is a fantastic singer and a fantastic kind of cabaret entertainer. And he's worth checking out on Instagram now in the lockdown days, because he actually occasionally performs with his band by Zoom and puts that recording up onto his personal feed onto Instagram. So much more Isaac can be found on Instagram. He is also my great curator of Instagram. All of the funny links that I ever receive about silly animals or silly clothes or silly people tend to come from Isaac. So I recommend his feed. And whenever the lockdown ends, and if and when our world ever gets back to something like what it was before the pandemic, I imagine that he'll be performing again at the Cafe Carlisle, and that's really a worthwhile performance to see. Uli, you and I will go together to the next one. It's great.
I'm happy to hear us doing it on Zoom, because also a word to our listeners, we're recording this on Zoom. So if we sound tinny and not perfectly professional, that's how it is, because we're living in a lockdown right now. And we recorded Isaac in his own studio, which we were so happy he's invited us to, because it gave us also a glimpse into how he works, where he lives, the dogs he lives with, the people he loves. So in some ways it was really nice. And it actually, we were willing to do that. And we could have gotten better sound effects probably by being in a soundproof professional studio. But it would have not been what we want from these interviews, to turn this into a conversation and to have a connection. And so that's what we want listeners to have as well. While we couldn't take you into that studio and you can't see it, I think you really get a sense of Isaac being in his home, in his element, and being willing to talk to us on this personal level.
That's right. Yeah. No, just such a fun interview, such a fun and lovely, wonderful human being. So on to the podcast.
Welcome, Isaac. Thank you.
Thank you
for having us in your beautiful studio today.
Thank you. I'm happy to have you here.
I will start. The first question on the PROUST questionnaire that he answered when he was 15 is, what is your idea of perfect happiness?
My idea of perfect happiness is being with my dogs, right? That is just a kind of perfect happiness. But, as I age, I notice that it is not, it's maybe happiness is the wrong word to use, because there is a kind of obsession about these dogs and about their well-being, you know. And I feel maybe not exactly happy, but most kind of at peace when I have like my dogs in bed and everybody is sort of fed and they've taken their pills and everybody has done their stuff and they're all kind of just lying there. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I feel very happy and relaxed and at peace. But then when I'm at the theater, for instance, all I think about are these dogs and how I better get home, and it's been very long and the play wasn't worth sitting through because I just want to walk my dogs.
Yeah.
Right?
You and I talk about that all the time, like is it worth it to be away from my dogs for however much time?
And also, I'll tell you the opposite of happiness, the despair that I feel about things like when Dean, for instance, who's aging, is losing the use of his hind legs. And it's terrible. Oh, it's absolutely terrible. He can't jump up anymore. He can't jump on things. He can't do it anymore. And he's a big eater. He loves his meals. And he used to do this hilarious jump thing when he was about to be fed.
Oh, yeah.
And now he doesn't jump, but you see him trying to jump. He wants to jump, which fills me with happiness, but it also fills me with despair. Yeah. So it's the opposite of happiness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I know. And then just to get both dogs name recognition, Kitty is the other dog.
Kitty is, she's in her prime. She's just about 4, and she is the happiest girl in the world.
And a gazelle.
And a gazelle meets a butterfly, meets a border collie.
Yeah. She'll be hopping for a long time.
She will, and she has these long legs. Yeah. So it doesn't matter if she can hop. She can just kind of, she just poses, right, exactly.
Isaac, what's your greatest fear?
My greatest fear, these questions are just the questions I ask myself all the time. So I don't even have to think about these questions, My greatest fear.
I try to avoid these questions at all costs.
No, this is all I think about.
I can see you just settling in. Right,
oh, okay, well, that one.
Yeah,
that old chestnut.
That old chestnut I was thinking about 5 minutes ago.
My greatest fear is being taken for mad. not being understood. Okay. That is literally what I have nightmares about. As a kid, I used to sort of have these episodes whereby I would be like falling backwards into an abyss. I swear to God, it was called, I think, like panic, maybe. Yeah. But I used to panic that people wouldn't understand me. And then, of course, as I would get more and more hysterical, they would understand me less and less. So it was like a self-fulfilling thing, like a self-fulfilling version of madness. Yeah. And I literally choke up just thinking about like being taken for mad because it's a terrible, terrible fate. Yeah. Could you imagine?
No.
Those movies where people are admitted into like Fogg's Asylum or something. Those like 19th century. Exactly. Never. Oh, woo. Yeah.
Never exactly. To be heard from again.
Never to be heard from again.
Yeah. No. Luckily that. Yeah. I don't see that happening to you. Okay. What is the trait you most deplore in yourself?
Well, the trait that I most deplore in myself is this inability to kind of like sort of be in the moment. I'm always like either in the past or kind of like mostly planning and feeling anxiety about the future. Mm-hmm. That's really where I am the most. I don't really dwell in the past, but I wish that I could be in the moment. I feel like if I could do that, I would sleep better. I would like not be so addicted to tranquilizers. You know, there'd be a lot of things that would improve a great deal in my life.
And do you feel like being with your dogs, that is sort of one of those times when you can kind of be in the moment? I always feel that about mine. Oh,
yes, absolutely. When we're together, I mean, it doesn't mean I'm not tranquilized. But
so hard to judge whether it's the tranquilizers or the dogs.
No, but you know what I mean. Usually when I'm with my dogs, and it's like, it's funny. It depends on the amount of time that I have with them. You know, like if I'm in Bridgehampton and I have like 2 nights, it's better than 1 night. And 3 nights is incredible. 4 nights, I'm like, okay, let's get back to the city. You know, seriously,
thinking about leaving those dogs.
Little bit.
Yeah, exactly. No, I know exactly what you mean. Okay, sorry. I doubt that your answer will be the same for this one as for the last question. What is the trait you most deplore in others?
I think the trait I most deplore is like when they smell bad. I just hate people who smell bad. That's horribly judgmental, but if someone gets close to me and they smell bad, it's like, I can't, and I never know exactly what to do about it, you know?
Assault on your senses.
Yeah. That, and also like being boring. I just think that boring people are just deplorable.
The first one you can fix more easily.
Right. Well, can you?
Can you take really a shower say to someone, but becoming interesting is much harder.
But can you tell a person like you smell really bad? You know, like you have really bad breath.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like many socialites who eat too little that will like, you know, undergoing constant ketosis.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh God, please, lady, just eat something besides like a vodka-soaked cotton ball.
Ew, yeah.
Right?
Ew, I love you pointing at me. Right? We've all been there, girl.
We know her. Okay, sorry.
We definitely know her.
Speaking of Proust, right?
We've got so much Proust to get into today. Which living person do you most admire?
Living person, I would have to say Mark Morris.
Yeah.
I most admire Mark Morris because he's such a great artist, and also he's so insane, you know? And he's also just lives in this world of his own making, and he doesn't make any apology for it at all. I did this talk with Christine Coulson at the Met the other night, and we were talking about maybe taking questions from the audience, and she was like, oh God, you know, they're always so inane, you know? And I was like, yeah, it's kind of true, right? And then I said, well, if you were Mark Morris, you would just say, that's a really stupid question. I'm sorry, I can't answer it. Not even I'm sorry. He would say, that's a stupid question. I can't answer. Are there any better ones, you know? And he'll just say that because that's who that person is. Yeah. No apology, nothing. And also he's just as crazy and nutty as everybody else, you know, so there.
And he's not worried about being taken for that. Yeah.
No, he doesn't care. He's also like hugely, enormously fat right now, and like he doesn't give a shit. It's like he just buys new clothes that fit, you know? It's unbelievable. I love him for that.
Yeah.
I literally love him for that.
That's awesome.
What is your greatest extravagance?
My greatest extravagance, I have so many. You know, I'm beginning to think it's dishes. I buy like an enormous number of dishes, a lot of dishes. I buy like very large sets of dishes. Like if I'm going to buy a set of dishes, it has to be like 2 dozen, you know. And I don't think I've ever had 24 people at once. but I feel as though I need, and just in case, like
Yeah.
there's one night where I actually have 24 people coming over.
You have several sets of dishes.
You know what? I don't even have that many sets of dishes. My mother has so many more dishes than I
Really?
do. But I feel like it's a growing thing
Right.
that I'm obsessed with. I think maybe the answer to the question is like material objects. I'm so stupid. Like I just want to get rid of everything, and I can't stop buying things, you know?
Yeah.
It's a sick thing. It's a crazy thing.
Yeah.
I don't even like things. It's not even. By the way, I'm not buying. I'm not buying Degas drawings. You know what I'm saying?
Something you'd like to have in the house.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like dishes and little pictures that I like and painters that I follow. You know, it's just stupid stuff. More and more stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My husband, whom you know, always likes to say that from an economist's point of view, if you're bringing one thing into the house, you have to take one thing out.
Ooh.
And I remember it rocked my world when he first told me that. And of course, I still don't live by it. But every now and again,
Right.
I look at how filled to the gills all of the rooms in everywhere I live are. And it's because I'm not following that principle. So maybe that's a way to try.
Yeah, I think so. So I think, it doesn't exactly answer the question. I think my greatest excess is like what? Stuff. Just
Things,
stuff,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And if you're Robert,
Yeah.
Couturier,
Our friend Robert Couturier.
like, you're talking about like some...
A Vigée Lebrun.
Like,
Yeah.
exactly, a Vigée Lebrun, or like a 15th century Sphinx or something. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
Like a revival Sphinx that is on his lawn. I mean, that's not stuff. That's like valuable, crazy, great stuff to have.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Well, he's the model, and I think that maybe we
Yes.
buy because it looks so good on him. But you're right.
Exactly.
For me, like another pair of clogs is not
Exactly,
really
another pair of
the
clogs.
same effect.
Right. Okay,
They
sorry.
get you closer to it. Okay, clogs. You're next.
Oh, what is your current state of mind?
My current state of mind, sadly, is one of anxiety. And it always is. I think anxiety, is that a good answer? I think anxiety is the greatest motivator in my life. Both like anxiety about, because I think when I'm really afraid of something, it motivates me to do it, right? And also, it kind of stops me from doing stuff. You know, I think it's like the anxiety about everything makes me live. It makes me live. It's a terrible thing to say, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
But it's good, at least it motivates you also.
Yeah,
Not
right.
paralyzing only.
No, it's not only paralyzing. It's not only paralyzing. It's the exact opposite of that. It's like it mobilizes me and it stops me in a good way. You know, I think anxiety. Yeah.
What do you consider the most overrated virtue?
That's a really good question. The most overrated virtue is sort of, oh boy, maybe we have to get back to that one. You know, I was going to say loyalty. Loyalty is an overrated virtue, but it's not. I mean, and by the way, that's why we love our dogs.
Right.
Because literally you could replace the word dog with loyalty, right? But I think the most overrated virtue is like that kind of understanding that you get from people that you don't need. Can you put that into is there a word for that?
What do you mean?
Like a kind of a condescending,
Yeah. Like accommodational condescension.
accommodational kind of like, you know, love and acceptance.
Like,
But it's
I
not
know
real.
you're having a hard time.
I'm
right
there
now.
for you.
I get
I mean,
you.
like I wish
I
wish I'm there for you. You could say as a verb, like you could say as like that.
Right.
Is there a word for that?
Right.
Like I'm there for you. That's the most overrated
Like
thing.
superficial supportiveness.
Exactly. Or even like supportiveness. I don't need to be support. I don't want support. Maybe that's it. Maybe supportiveness.
Okay. Oh.
Seriously.
I actually
'cause
get that.
I mean that. It's like, you know, supportive. What does that mean? If you buy my shit, then I love you. But if you tell me that you understand me, you know, like unconditionally, that'll never be true, you know.
Right.
And so that's a lie. I think supportiveness is my answer. you
And it's
know?
also so, I'd support anything you do, but
No.
if you do something that's wrong,
Exactly.
how about actually saying that's really
right.
wrong? So
That's right.
This kind of blanket supportiveness is...
Blanket supportiveness is overrated, I think.
Okay.
Yes.
You're right, but it is highly rated by
It
many.
is.
So,
Yes,
yeah.
it is. It is.
Yeah, that's-
Also, you know what else is overrated? And this comes from that play, is like, you know, feeling when you perform with feeling, or you write with feeling or something, or you cook with love. That's all bullshit. That is overrated.
It's called technique.
It's
You
called,
studied.
you can either
You
do
know
it
what
or
you're
you
doing.
can't do it. Right, exactly.
It's called the heart function on Instagram and Facebook. Support, love,
Right.
empty.
Facebook is overrated.
I heart you. You're like, you did something terrible, ridiculous,
And-
unimportant to me, and I'm still going to approve of it.
And it
Right.
comes off a slate of emojis, that
Yes,
heart. You know, how
exactly.
specific can that be?
Yeah.
No, wait, listen, so maybe that's it. Maybe Facebook is the most overrated
Well,
thing.
It's not a virtue.
It's not a virtue, right? Okay.
And they're not our corporate
Right,
sponsor,
that's right,
so
that's
that
right.
works out
Okay,
well.
yeah, exactly, right.
On what occasion do you lie?
Let's see. On what occasion do I lie? Sometimes I lie to my mom because, like, I don't think she would know the difference between the truth and a lie a lot of the time because she's, like, really old and she doesn't know the difference between a lot of things. But also, you know, my mother is really charming and really smart and really funny, but she lies, you know? And so I don't feel any compunction about lying to her sometimes. Like, oh, I can't come because I'm out of town. I mean, I'm like literally in a car outside her house, you know? And I decide, like, I can't visit her.
But she's looking
So I
at your
just
car
go,
and thinking it's like a potted
and so
plant.
she's lying
or-
and going, yeah, that's fine, darling. I know. How's
Have a great
California?
time.
Right, exactly.
I support you.
How's California?
Yeah, Uli and I are supportive of that.
Yeah, so I don't mind lying to my mom. Is that
Okay.
okay?
Yeah.
Exactly.
What do you most dislike about your appearance?
Well, I think that's pretty obvious. Most everything, but I really don't like my body anymore. It's just a source of constant. I mean, I never did, but now I look back at pictures of myself and it's unbelievable how thin and fabulous I used to have this cute body, you know.
But you might say the same thing about you now, 20 or 30 or 40
I know,
years from now.
except that's pathetic because
Who knows? Although we've read your memoir, and actually, this has been like it's not.
oh, that's right.
You
exactly.
think like, oh, I was 31 and
Yeah.
everything was perfect, right?
Not the biggest surprise.
Yeah.
Exactly. Not the biggest
Exactly.
surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate my body. I just don't like my body.
Which living person do you most despise?
That's easy. Donald Trump.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a one word answer.
And he's doing a good job getting into this questionnaire so many times.
Yeah,
I
he
know.
is.
He's really working
of
hard.
course.
He's working
right.
really hard.
You can't avoid it now.
No.
It's the only thing anybody thinks.
Yeah, no. And does he like his body? How could he?
He likes everything about
Yeah,
himself.
that's puzzling. Yeah.
That is puzzling, yeah. It's too easy. That's too easy a question. The person I most despise is Donald Trump, yeah. For every single reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are plenty. What, and these are kind of, Uli and I keep talking about whether we should modify these for the sake of 21st century sensibilities, but the next two questions are very gendered.
Okay, right. That's fine. I love gender
A
questions.
night of a thousand genders. What is the quality you most like in a man?
I like funny men. I like people who make me laugh,
Right.
period. Like if someone makes me laugh, it doesn't matter, really.
Yeah.
That's the most attractive thing to me about a man.
What is the quality you most like in a woman?
I would say the same thing.
Humor.
Yes, humor.
Yeah.
I mean that. It doesn't see.
But that's
again,
another thing you can't fake. Like when
That's
you get really
right.
boring, it's actually I think those things you cannot pretend to be funny.
And
Right.
the thing,
Right.
and,
Yeah.
and the other thing is, I am willing to put up with a lot if someone is
they're funny.
amusing, if they're funny and also clever and they're erudite and they know stuff.
So they can rob you, take
I don't
advantage.
care what they can talk about me. They can conspire against me.
Not
but-
be supportive.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Like, I don't need your support. I need you to be funny and
Right.
interesting.
Yeah.
You know, like start there, and then we'll get to loyalty, and then we'll get to love, and then
Right.
we'll get to deeper things like feelings. You know, but start with like things that amuse me because otherwise I'm out
Isaac
the
just
door.
put air quotes around
Feelings.
This is for our listeners.
Oh, one of the great jokes that ever. I
our
interviewed
listeners.
Conan O'Brien about 10 years ago
No
for my
way.
show. Yeah. And he is crazy. And he has a crazy relationship with his mother. And you know, that Irish sense of that incredibly dark sense of humor. I think that's where he gets it from.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. That's what he told me, like my mother used to say to me, oh yeah, Conan, I love you. That
Air
must be-
quotes around
That's
love.
the funniest thing in the world, right? Like, oh yeah, Conan, I love you. I mean, that is crazy, right?
Wow, that is
Wow. I thought my mother was
Yeah.
like, sarcastic and
That's
so
a good one, yeah.
Okay.
Makes you really want to
I mean, if your mother tells you, I love you, that is like, it's like the opposite of unconditional love. It's like,
Oh God!
air
There's
quote love.
No support there.
No
air
support,
quote love.
no support, yeah.
Which words or phrases do you most overuse?
Me?
Yeah.
Do I overuse phrases? I say, a lot.
Okay.
Yes. And also I say sort of, because I think it elevates, like sort of, that dress is sort of.
Oh, I do that too. I discovered that doing my other podcast, and I thought I say sort of, and I say interesting
Oh, do you?
all the time. And I sometimes think, is it really interesting? I was just trying to think about it at that moment.
Right, but it kept
Sort
coming
of,
back.
and sort of.
I listened to an interview with Mark Morris yesterday on NPR because of his book.
Oh, is it out now?
Called Out Loud. Yeah, it's called Out Loud. Okay.
Oh.
Anyway, and
Wait, Isaac just acted out the out loud title.
Out
It's
loud.
kind of a visual.
I never regret us not having a TV camera to do
I
this,
know,
except
of
now with
course.
you, because
Well, I mean, Out Loud is a better, like, for if you're like writing about Ethel Merman or something. I don't know who, but Mark Morris. I mean, but anyway. So the point is that he uses the word legitimate or legit a lot. A lot. Anyway, that was and he also says sort of a lot too. And when he said sort of like 15 times, I was like, I say that too.
Right.
Put me down
Guilty.
for that. Yeah, guilty. Exactly.
Guilty. Did you tell him about legitimate?
No, I plan to. Though.
All right, good. Yeah, he'll
You
hear
just
it.
did, actually.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I plan to.
What or who is the greatest love of your life?
Well, Arnold Gurmer is the greatest love of my life. I mean that. Also, Harry, my first dog. I mean,
Yes.
he's really the first love of my. I mean, he was the great love of my life.
He preceded Arnold.
He preceded Arnold. I got Harry, and I met Arnold through Walking Harry. And he was like, forget about it. He was the funniest. I mean, talk about like someone who kept my attention because he was so damn funny and so never boring. Like that dog was never boring. Even when he was literally stock still, asleep, it was so interesting,
Yeah. Oh.
So that was the love of my life, really. And you can't even describe it as that because it doesn't even compare to love between humans. It's a crazy thing. It's like a limb you love or a hairdo. You did your hair that day and it was great. And you're like, oh my God, I'm never happier. When your hair is good.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't because...
I know. Well, me either.
Yours is good right now, I have to tell you.
Well, thank you. So is yours. All right, sorry.
Okay, when and where were you happiest?
I was happiest when I was 40 and I was doing this show on Off-Broadway. I was the happiest I ever was. Before I met Arnold, it was just me and Harry in the house, and I wrote about it. I bought a toaster, and I was like, "Oh my God, this toaster!" It was this moment where it was like the best thing everything was just. It was a great thing. I felt so self-sufficient and so young still.
Yeah.
And I was at a goal weight. Hashtag go away.
Everything feels better
actually
when you're
in
goal
my
weight.
show. I was taking my clothes off in the show, like changing clothes, and it was like, yeah, I'll do that because my body was cute.
Keeping it tight.
I'm telling you, I'm not kidding.
Yeah,
keeping
legit.
it tight, babe. Legit.
Sorta legit.
Sort of legit.
Sorta
Exactly.
legit. Legit. Okay, this is a silly question for you because I feel like you have every talent, but which talent that you don't have would you most like to have?
I would love to be able to dance, professionally. Like I always thought that if I had the physique or the body or the knees and the strength and the feet, well, I have amazing feet, but I would be a dancer. I would love to dance.
Yeah. Ballet.
Ballet, yeah. Ballet, I think. Sure, yeah.
It's a bit harder to start over the age of 35, but you can still try.
Excuse me? It's hard to start over the age of 9.
I know,
Excuse
exactly.
me, yeah.
Other people tell us things and we're like, take a class.
The other
Yeah,
day,
but yeah, not at ballet.
do you see John Clifford, his posts? He's like, I think one of the, it's either John Clifford or Kurt Froman. They're like these archivists of the Balanchine thing, and they posted this duet from Agon, and I couldn't, it was these two boys, and I was like, just for 10 minutes to be able to do that once,
Wow.
Once,
yeah.
right.
Or be Christy Turlington for 10 minutes.
Right?
I mean...
Just in general.
Just in general, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Just to walk
Where
around
did that
being her.
come from? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's what I'd be if I could be if I could be one thing, like you said, I would be Christy Turlington. Yes.
Oh, that's great.
I'm not kidding.
Yeah. I bet it's great to be her.
I mean, yes, totally.
Yeah. Yeah. That,
If you could change one thing about yourself, what would it be?
God, I don't know. Can I not answer that question?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay,
Of course, because I would say I would lose like 40 pounds, but
No,
I'm
but
about to.
that's
So,
Yeah, you are about to.
I am
What do you
seriously.
consider your greatest achievement?
I think, no kidding, the greatest thing was writing this one show I did off-Broadway a number of years ago, 10, 15, 20 years ago, oh my God. And the other thing was writing that book. That was an amazing thing to accomplish. I didn't think that it would happen. I really didn't think. There were moments when I was like, okay, this is just not happening.
What motivated you to write the book? It's a beautiful book. It's
Thank you
very
so
moving.
much.
It's
So
very
good.
poignant. And it's
And
very,
very funny.
very funny.
Well, thank you.
I mean,
You're right.
even your mom and the presence of your sister, somehow the whole childhood thing, they're very real.
Oh, good. Well,
through the
hooray.
book. Yeah.
Well, you know, what motivated it was dinner with David Kuhn one night. He said, why don't you write a memoir? And I was like, oh, I don't know. And he was like, you should, and let's take meetings. And I was like, okay. And the next thing I knew,
great.
there was an offer. So I took an offer. And I thought, oh, I'll do this. And then I started, and I was like, this is never going to... Are these people crazy? I thought, oh, this will just be one more thing, And when I took the job, my mom said to me, oh, you have to tell the truth, right? And I was like, okay, get ready. And she's very, very literate, my mother. She reads everything. And so she understands, like, the standards of excellence that we're kind of talking about when you talk about writing something, right? And so it was really, really hard, really hard.
Well, the memoir is a hard genre because you don't want to just list dates and things and people. You have to create a real story that keeps your reader's attention.
Yes.
Because otherwise it becomes too schematic. Otherwise you're like, and then this happened and this.
Well, wait a minute. What's hilarious is that one conversation I had with my mother over the 5-year period that it took me to write the book. And of course, like every other week, she's like, when are you sending me pages? As though we were co-writing this book. Hilarious, right? But then she said to me, I said to her, oh, do you remember like the color of blah, blah? She's like, darling, make it up. It's your book. And I was like, right, of course.
But
like,
she told
is there
you had to tell the
anyone?
truth.
Yeah, no, well, of course she said that first. But darling, truth is a very, very big definition.
Yeah.
Truth is a big definition.
If it was read to you, then who are we to say that it wasn't read?
Absolutely.
Voila.
Absolutely. What you remember. There's that thing about Leonardo where he had like a dream about a eagle. Did you ever read that thing? I think it's in the book Freud, right?
Yeah.
And they can't tell if he actually dreamt it or not, but it doesn't matter because he remembers it. So that's what he remembers. Exactly.
If you were to die and
Caroline,
come back...
that was such a judgmental look.
It was a supportive look.
It was, exactly. It was like, yeah, okay, well, that's getting edited.
No, I know. I was thinking about how at one point you emailed me when you were writing your book and said something like, oh, but is it going to be any good? I mean, I'm just a Jewish boy with mommy issues. And my reply was, well, so is Proust. So
Right. Well, by the way, last night was the Emile Zola story on TCM. I almost called you.
Oh, really? I missed it.
Yeah, it was like at 10 p.m. or something.
Was it good?
Starring Paul Muni as Emile Zola. It's great.
Really?
It's so great. And there's the whole Esterhazy...
Yeah. Dreyfus Affair.
Dreyfus Affair. Oh, my God. And Dreyfus is played by that actor that sort of... He's actually loathsome, but in this he's really good. Oh. I mean, he's always plays a
Mel
loathsome
Gibson?
character. No, did you ever see The Shop Around the Corner?
Yes.
That movie with and he plays the sort of like guy who keeps sucking up to the boss.
Oh.
He also plays Dreyfus in this
Really?
movie. Yeah, I forgot his name. It's like I forgot his name. It's a German name.
Some kind of Germanic.
Yes.
Did Zola speak with a lisp in the movie? Because apparently he did in real life.
Maybe
And
I
people
don't.
used
You
to
know
make
what?
fun of
I
him.
was.
Yeah.
I was.
Really?
Yes, it could be.
Yeah,
could be.
Zola.
Right, Zola. Right.
If you were to die and come back as a person or thing, I would say just being, also any species, person, any species or thing, what would it be?
I keep thinking this. I would like to be a tree.
Yeah, we've actually heard that.
To be a tree.
From
I know.
Another person.
It would be the
Nice.
greatest. What a service! What a great thing to be a tree.
So have you read all these new books about how trees communicate?
No.
It's incredible. I'll send you one. It's
Okay.
quite stunning.
love
It's
this
actually
idea.
genuinely stunning to discover
All
that
right.
trees communicate when one is being attacked. It actually sends out chemicals, and between their roots, there are ways that they traverse, and they literally can warn the other trees, which will within 12 hours change the chemical makeup of their bark. It's really amazing. It's amazing that they have ways of communicating. And the large,
unbelievable.
and the largest
Of course,
living.
I was like, "Mommy, I want to be a tree,"
It's
and
not-
he's like, "Oh, you know, they have these chemicals."
They think,
that
Right.
they
their
can
bark.
think. You'd be
Chemical
conscious
composition.
as a tree. You'd actually be thinking as a tree.
Well,
Yeah.
I just think to
For
be
better
that,
and for worse.
you
Yeah.
could also live for a very long time. I think as a tree, right?
If you were not attacked.
If you
or
were not
Right.
chopped
attacked,
down.
exactly, or chopped down, or you didn't get rot of some sort.
Or
Yeah,
brooded in a weather event.
exactly.
Yeah.
yeah.
What
But
kind of tree?
That's a good question. Probably like a simple, like maple tree. I love maple trees. I really like them. I love the whole bark and the colors and the shape of the leaf and everything.
Where would you most like to live?
I live where I would most like to live. I do, in Greenwich Village. I'm not kidding. And it's terrible because I'm from New York City. I'm from the environment, and I just couldn't think of living anywhere else.
You know what's in your book? What's funny when you
What?
drive back and forth when you're in
Oh,
college,
yeah,
and it's
right.
like, wait, you're driving, and it's such an odd experience
Oh,
for
the
New Yorkers.
taxis?
No, you drive
No, I
yourself.
drive.
Yeah, oh, the
you
house-
drive
yeah,
on
that's right.
and your
Oh,
big
yeah.
night, the first big night, and you drive in this hotel room and everything. And there's
Oh my
something about this idea of you in this
God,
big
I know,
car
this huge
driving in the
car.
morning.
And you know, because cars in those days were mad.
Right.
They were huge. They were tanks. And this was like a Cadillac, so it was like a big thing. Wow, it was really funny. And there weren't like bucket seats. It was like a bench with like a
Right.
steering wheel. I mean, it was really something hilarious, you know?
Yeah, but you never drive. You don't really drive now. You don't drive yourself.
No,
Yeah.
I don't really drive because I had a terrible car accident about 12 years ago. Yeah, and it was really nearly fatal, and it was scary. So, I mean, I drive in the beach. Sometimes I drive a Mini at the beach.
What is your most treasured possession? Wedding ring.
Right, except it was like
So
just
beautiful.
a ring, and then it was just a ring.
I've never asked you. How did that come up? Did
Well-
you design it or?
Not really. I'll tell you what. I saw a psychic, an Ayurvedic psychic in L.A., and he was like, "You should start to wear diamonds on a Thursday, right?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." Isn't that so specific? Like any
He
kind of
seriously
diamond?
said
It's like,
diamonds on a
It could
Thursday?
be any diamond on any Thursday. Just start to wear diamonds on a Thursday. So, and then I spoke to Myra, who had also seen this guy, and she said that he told her to wear yellow sapphires starting on a Tuesday or something, right? And she said that her life improved like by 30% or something, you know? She got this yellow sapphire, right? And of course the joke was like, well, I have a cousin in the in the next room. I have a cousin who sells yellow sapphires.
Right, yeah.
But anyway, so I got this diamond, and then my friend Kitty Hawks had this incredible kind of, gypsy kind of ring, like just a diamond ring. And she was having hers reset, and she was like, and so I went to the jeweler and I had to make me one.
Yeah.
So and I think it's like a copy of like a Harry Winston or something.
It's so
Or
pretty.
like a Fred Leighton or some copy of something. But that's the ring.
And did your life improve noticeably?
It improved so many percentage points. I can't
Wow.
believe it. Yeah, from that day. And then I met Arnold, and I got one for him, and it became sort of like our commitment ring.
Nice.
Yeah, well, it became our wedding ring because we're married.
I
by the
know.
way. We are married people.
And you did the stealth marriage. Which
We
is,
did.
yeah.
You did too,
Yeah,
right? Ish.
yeah,
You
ish,
did.
yeah.
Well, you did it in a more kind of passive-aggressive way.
Stealth, but the whole world knows.
Stealth, but there was a Nobel Prize in it.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
everybody,
Everybody
every
knew.
news media in the world said Caroline Webber got made.
Right.
No one knew.
No one knew.
So
Stealth,
embarrassing. It
under
was.
the radar, and yet.
And yet, not. I have a feeling your wedding was so much cooler.
So was it.
Okay. What do you regard as the lowest depth of misery?
Well, I think the lowest depth of misery is boredom. I mean that. Yeah. Boredom. Nothing worse.
Yeah.
Because that's when you start doing really terrible things when you're bored, By that I mean like, drinking too much or, eating too much or taking too many drugs or, yeah.
Or listening to the wrong people.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. Boredom.
Speaking with the wrong people.
Boredom is death. Boredom equals death. Yeah.
What is or what would be your favorite occupation? A job or a profession?
Well, is that right? Is that the same thing? Occupation and job
Yes.
and profession?
Well,
We think it doesn't
we
have
think-
to be. Yeah.
Someone else
Okay.
said it's not the Palestinian occupation. That was one of our interview. Edgar Keret
know,
said,
yeah.
"My favorite occupation is the one of Gaza." And he said, "Okay, dark humor."
Wow.
So
You know, like-
that was supposed to be humorous, by the way.
Yeah.
I think like no kidding, I really like to cook and bake. And if I could I don't want it to be a job, but I would love to just keep baking and cooking as an occupation, right? And the terrible, scary, sad, hilarious thing, all at the same time, is that I see it as a very stressful, it's not a relaxing undertaking. That's the other thing. People go, "Oh, it's so relaxing to make
also
pasta."
scare quotes. Or pasta as well as
Right. No, you know what I mean, right? No, you know what it's like to make fresh pasta. It takes all night.
Right.
You have to see this post I just posted about about making this ravioli. It's oh, this is just a quick little dinner. You'll be eating by 1 a.m. It's when you start making the pasta fresh, and then you have to rest it, and you have to knead it again, you have to rest it again, knead it. It's impossible. Just go buy the fucking raviolis pre-made. But the point is that now my hip, I have problems with my hip from that car accident. Thank you, right? And whenever I cook now, even if it's just for myself, the easiest thing in scrambling eggs or something, my hip starts to freak out because I take it very seriously. If this is not the most perfect. Yeah, because I like food. I really like food, and I hate when it goes to waste. And so often when you cook, it's just not that good. You know what I mean? It's this could be better. Here's what I have to say, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not talking about the Arnold Germer method of tasting food where it's oh, what if this had saffron? And then I go, well, then it would be this with saffron, Oh, what if this had pecans? And you're well, then it would be this with pecans. But I promise you, I went through all the things that I shouldn't do to this, and one of them was pecans, and the other was saffron, But does that drive you crazy?
Oh my God, that's
it's
funny.
Just eat what I'm serving you because it's really interesting.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, that's.
Oh.
And I know. Well, Arnold just has never struck me as a passive aggressive guy, but that is. Right, what if...
He's the most passive-aggressive.
Is he really?
He's so passive-aggressive.
Is he really?
Yes.
He always seems just so
He's trying to be supportive.
He is extremely genial,
He's here
and he
for
is
you.
so funny. And he's so not boring, and he's so not supportive. He is the least supportive person. I'm telling you, my husband does not support me for 1 second.
Yeah.
I don't even think he read my book.
Oh, mine didn't either. Definitely
Okay,
not.
boom.
Yeah, boom.
I love both of them for that.
I know.
Do you really need your husband to do stuff? I don't need my husband to do stuff for me to support me. No.
No, actually, you're right. Except not be boring,
Not be boring.
but also not be passive aggressive about your cooking.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, that.
Yeah, that. I don't know. Would you like it with arsenic instead of pecan?
What is your most marked characteristic? And we think that's what other people perceive about you first.
I think they see me as a nervous person. I think they see me as a kind of jittery, nervous person. What do you think?
I would see. I don't know if this is not. I'm answering the question, but I'm not supposed to. I would see you as a determined person.
I'm pretty determined.
Funny.
Oh, funny person.
Funny.
I like
Funny.
that.
So
Yeah.
damn.
I try.
Funny.
No, but you also
Okay.
don't need to try.
But also, I got to tell you, the opposite of funny is really dark. That. So it's a real both. I'm not kidding. You can't avoid that. I don't think people can avoid that. Can you?
No.
You cannot avoid the darkness. You cannot avoid it. So there you go. That's what I mean by anxious. Because funny and anxious, and dark.
Yeah. You're funny about the dark, but the dark is...
The thing I notice about myself when I watch tape of myself, in any interview situation or any, show that I do or whatever where I'm talking, it's always this crazy thing where you go well, I love it, but it's shit. You know what I mean? It's I'm always contradictory. I feel I might be I think people might see it as contradictory, but I don't mean to be contradictory. That's how my mother was. My mother was very oh, that's great. And, here's what's wrong with it. That's who she is. She cannot help herself, And I think that's the way to be, And by the way, if you ask my opinion, I will tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean it.
Yeah. What do you most value in your friends?
Amusing, funniness. I'm not kidding.
Yeah. All funny all the time.
Funny and the ability to surprise me. Because I think surprise is my favorite thing, and it's so hard to surprise me. So when people surprise me, I like it a lot. And sometimes it doesn't even have to be a good surprise. It can be a horrible surprise, they can die, and I'm oh my God, that's such a surprise! You died. You know what I mean? It's I mean it. Like, then I really love people when they die. I love them so much.
I didn't expect that to
That
happen
was
at all.
such a surprise. Oh my God.
Oh my
Okay,
God.
sorry.
Well, Proust writes somewhere about how one of the things that people are always happy about when somebody dies, when somebody they know dies, is that it releases them from any future obligation to pay visits or return. Like,
Oh God.
one less email to write back to.
Oh, it's so
Thank
true.
God.
It's so true.
Wow, really?
That's the funny in the dark
I think
at
it's
the same time.
hilarious. It's so wonderful.
Who are your favorite writers?
You know, the more I think about it, the more I think Mark Twain is my favorite writer. I swear to God. Because he is just so hilarious.
Totally.
I mean, so dark and hilarious, you know? And of course the novels, I'm not even talking about the novels, I'm talking about like, you know, essays and just his idea of what America is so fucked up and funny and great, you know? And true, by the way.
And
True,
he got
very,
the,
very, very true.
the darkness of America,
Oh,
but
yes.
he saw humor
He
in it.
really got it, yes.
Yeah.
I love Mark Twain. So he's one of my favorite writers. The other person I think of, just right off the bat, I mean, I like so many writers, but there are so many writers whose one book I loved, and then it's not so much. But like I love, I can't even say it, it's so stupid, but Dawn Powell. I really like her novels, and her diaries are beyond.
Really?
I mean, those diaries, I'm telling you.
You got me to read the novels,
Forget the
didn't you?
novels.
Yeah.
Forget them,
Really?
because the diaries will kill you. And it's like, all takes place in Greenwich Village, the whole thing. In like the 30s and 50s, and it's crazy. And she had this really nutty husband who was always on the couch like drunk. You have to read it. It's great. I mean, there's so many writers I like. Who don't we like? Who don't we like? I don't like Kurt Vonnegut. There, I
There
said
you
said
it.
go.
it.
You
Boom.
said it. There you go.
Who I don't like? I like a lot of writers, you know? I don't like magic realism as much as others. Like, I'm not the biggest Gabriel Garcia Marquez fan, even though I read every word he wrote, you know. But I'm also not the biggest, what's her name? You know, the 19th century novelist who wrote Emma and...
Jane Austen.
Jane Austen, I could take or leave it, and I read every word she wrote.
Yeah.
You know, I read every word of Jane Austen with a dictionary when my English wasn't really that good. And I don't remember a thing, but I actually looked up every single word in that book that I didn't know.
That's so sweet. How old
Because
were you?
I had this ambition when I was about 16 to learn English, so I thought, okay, I'll read a book and I'll look up all the words.
Jane Austen.
And so my vocabulary was fairly expensive at the age of 17.
With all these, like, strange, like, 19th century spellings of
Everything,
things, like
exactly.
favorite.
Yes,
Oh, yeah. I was very cross.
Cross, yes.
Yeah, there aren't that many
top
writers
that.
who don't like them. And weirdly, like, when I don't like them, I still read them, don't you?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Kind of have to read
Just to
things you
see
don't
even
like.
if you're right or not.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, who is your favorite writer besides? I mean, like, we're going to say Proust because
Right.
he's definitely my best writer that
right.
I mean, it's a crazy other. It's an otherworldly kind of thing. It's
But
like the Bible.
Yeah, it's almost not answering the question.
I know, that's right. I mean, I assume you get that I'm talking now to the actual, like, apparatus that's taping me. Like, I assume you get that Proust is my favorite writer. But other than Proust.
The
right? It's
apparatus,
like Mark
assumes
Twain.
that.
Yeah, exactly.
Mark Twain.
The Innocents Abroad.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just trying to think of, like, the books that I love of his. But, oh well, go on.
Well, maybe this relates. Who is your hero of fiction, film, or television? Your favorite fictional character?
I mean, I have a few.
Okay.
And you know what just popped into my head? You're not going to believe this. Mary Tyler Moore. Because I just love her, and I just love the idea of living in this, like, strange little lonely town somewhere and making friends and having a great job and wearing all those cute little moderate numbers with your hair done every day.
Pussy bow.
Exactly. Pussycat bow, please. Pussycat
sorry.
bow. They all get that wrong. They all call it a pussy bow. It's not. That's a pussy hat. But a pussycat bow is an invention of Norman Norell, I think. And it was a big bow, and it was called a pussycat bow.
Okay.
Sorry.
Fashion vocab with Isaac Mizrahi.
She didn't wear a lot of pussycat bows, did she? It was a little late for pussycat
Was
bows.
it really? I picture her with the hair.
Scarves,
and
yes, scarves for sure.
So funny, also. That show.
So funny.
Yeah.
Why did I think of her? I think
Well,
of
she
her out
was
of all
Close
heroes.
to close to your heart.
The other thing I loved was I loved Claudius. I loved Claudius.
Oh my God.
He was a real hero and such a round, right? Like so many flaws and so many bad things.
Oh, that's a good one. You're
Which
next.
historical figure do you most identify with?
That's a hard one. What historical figure do I don't really know. I mean, I was going to say like Winston Churchill to be hilarious, to be funny.
Right.
You know? Historical figure that I to me, Mark Twain is a role model.
Yeah.
Is that a crazy thing?
No.
Or like, Cecil Beaton, even for such terrible politics or something, he's a role model. Jean Cocteau is a role model.
Okay.
But I'm not exactly sure I identify with them. That would be presumptuous for me to say that I identify with them. But I look up to those gentlemen because they were all very kind of like multidisciplinary,
Right.
which is another sick,
Many things,
horrible
right.
thing that I hate
Right.
people say. But
That's the
multiple-disciplinary.
Cocteau
Yeah,
you connection.
that's right.
I think
Beaton,
multidisciplinary
Beaton too, yeah.
counters this idea that everybody has to be a brand.
Right.
So people want you to do one thing, and then if you're not, they have to give you another label. So otherwise, they can't
Right.
accommodate you at all. So if you do more than one and a half things, they think, oh, you must be multidisciplinary. Because
Right.
everybody has many things usually.
I think so.
But
I think so. But the rule is that you can't do more than one thing,
Right.
and that drives me
because
insane.
it's not saleable. It's a brandish.
Yeah, people can't understand that you could do more than one thing. They can't buy it unless they think that you've devoted your life to that one thing
Right.
forever.
Right.
They don't feel it has any value, and that's a shame. That's a real shame.
Yeah, very strange.
Yeah, I hate that about life. I really do.
But it's also so untrue to anyone's life. Anyone.
It's not that untrue to Mark Morris. He makes up dances. That's all he does.
Yeah, or
right?
Proust, for instance.
Or Proust. Or like, Tennessee. I mean, there's a million people who just... Tennessee Williams wrote the same play like 25 times, basically, right? And they're all incredible. No, I'm serious. Like Richard Serra, like he does one thing.
Yeah, he hit on one
out of this
thing and
world.
kept on doing it. Right?
Exactly. It's
It's
fantastic.
actually good. Yeah, they know how to do
You
that.
know what I mean,
Yeah.
right?
It's like having a signed role in a basketball or baseball team. That's what you do.
Bach.
You're the one who
Yeah.
kicks the
Bach.
football on football.
I mean, it's one thing.
Yeah.
Bach.
Basically,
It's basically
over and over. So
it's
good, though.
kind of, but it's so
But yeah,
excellent.
no one is also saying Bach was also like, he's a really good painter too, and he's
Right.
a great cook.
Well, then you get into the Tony Bennett thing where he has like a show somewhere of paintings and you want to kill yourself.
Oh yeah,
Oh, I know.
Jim Carrey's cartoon.
Right. You see? Well, that's my problem because I play at cabarets and people think I'm that.
Right.
And maybe I am that, Caroline. Maybe I am.
You're all that.
Okay, well, thank you.
No, but that's where I like that Beaton and Cocteau are answers
yeah,
for you because I think
exactly,
Right.
absolutely.
no, and Uli is.
But on the other hand, a lot of them did many other things, and
Well,
then
yeah.
you discover their notebooks and
Oh,
drawings,
yeah.
and because we don't like to think of it that way. So
Yeah.
it's not that everybody was even just limited. Or Mark Twain, he wrote novels, he's a novelist. Then
Yes.
he wrote newspaper essays, then he wrote speeches, then
And
he
he
wrote political
performed.
commentary.
He did talks.
Oh,
He
he
did
did?
he's a
Yeah,
famous,
at the
famous
end of his life,
public
he was-
intellectual speaker.
Public speaker. Yeah.
But in some ways, we want to put him in one box.
Yeah.
So Mark Twain, that's Huckleberry, and that's it.
Yeah.
We can't think of it any other way, really.
Right.
It's sort of that these people tried out so many things, and then the one things we remember is
The one silly thing that they ever did.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, maybe not always even the best thing they ever did.
Right.
Who are your heroes in real life?
My heroes in
Or
real
heroines?
life. Good question again. Oh God, thank you, Proust. Because he wrote these questions.
No,
right?
but it's become associated
Okay,
with him
right.
because a friend of his got one of those fancy little notebooks from England. Everything in Paris in the 1880s was very fashionable. It was from England,
Right.
so it had all these questions printed in the front in English, and it
Right.
became associated with him when he became Proust. But
You know who I think my heroes are in real life? I'm not kidding. Firemen, nurses,
Right.
teachers. Okay, that aside, right? But I love museum workers because they, like museum curators, museum editors, writers, etc. Because they know how to live, honey. They do not. It's like the Queen of England. She does not cut corners. Elizabeth does not cut corners. She adds corners.
Right.
Right? Am I right about that? It's like,
That's
no. 10 people are assigned to this plate. and placing it exactly right on the table next to the napkin and the fork, right? I live for that.
Yeah.
I live for that. I always tell Arnold, like, if there's a Holocaust, like a nuclear Holocaust, find a museum. You will be fine inside a museum, you know? I mean that.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
That's true.
So I love them because they go, oh, no. There's white gloves and there's a person with the white gloves and then there's a person to approve the white gloves.
You're right.
And I really like all of that I like all those steps.
Yeah.
It makes me feel safe.
Yeah.
And also the way they guard and the way they catalog and the way they revere history, you know? I mean it, because without art, I would not know any history, which is probably why my history knowledge is so fucked up, because I know it through art, you know?
I don't think that's fucked up.
It is a little bit. If you knew art the way I knew art, it's totally fucked up. Yeah, because it doesn't exactly
like the
match.
Treaty of Versailles.
Right, exactly.
Like what painting can you
Exactly.
find?
I know,
Yeah.
they had a great dinner when they signed
There
it.
was a good painting of the dinner. What are your favorite names, Isaac?
My favorite names. My favorite name is Julian. Like, I wish my name was Julian.
I could see you.
I know, right? Julian. I just love it.
I love that.
I like Julia, but I love the masculine version. Julian is such a chic name. I also love when girls are named boys, things like Douglas and Keith and Scotty.
Yeah.
Like, if I had a daughter, she'd be named Scotty Mizrahi.
Scotty Mizrahi.
Well, especially because it has the dog reference as well.
Yeah, of course. I was going to say, maybe that's the
Scotty.
next dog, but it can't be a
Brindle,
Scotty.
Brindle Mizrahi.
That's
No,
a good
I
name.
do. I love boys' names for girls.
Yeah. I knew a really pretty girl growing up whose first name was Hunter, and I
Oh, this is amazing.
Right. Of course, she had great hair.
Right.
It's very common on Madison, all these names, right?
Yeah.
There's a whole
Yes.
generation of those names, yeah. What is it that you most dislike?
What is it just across the
All
board that I
things.
most dislike?
Yeah.
Cilantro. I mean, I'm sort of kidding because I can't think of something that I dislike the most. That's crazy. I think, okay, I know what I dislike the most. Airports and hospitals.
Oh.
Airports and hospitals equal.
And cilantro.
Well, I just said cilantro because it was like, it came to my mind as a joke.
Yeah.
But I think I hate airports more than hospitals. Isn't
Really?
that funny?
You
Yeah.
do?
Yes. I don't mind a plane.
Right.
I don't mind being away. I just don't like airports.
In
I
that space.
just, yeah.
What is your greatest regret?
I mean, if I answer that question, then I have to acknowledge that regret is real, you know, and that is terrible to recognize. You know, I think my greatest regret is that I didn't pursue a career in show business first. And I pursued this kind of crazy, like, second prize, which was fashion. For me, fashion was a second prize.
That's one of the really interesting parts about your memoir, I think, is learning and that you came to fashion because you decided that
It was
somehow
less terrifying
than
than
the
show
performance.
business.
Yeah.
I think it's because, you know, if somebody writes a criticism about your clothes, it's like, yeah, well, my clothes didn't. But if they write a thing about you, you know, like in dance class when they go, "You're fat," I want to go like, okay, I'm never going to go home now. You know, like when they scream at people in dance class, like, "You better lose, 7 pounds before you put on those white tights," and it's like, oh, like in the middle of class.
Oh, no.
Wow. Yeah,
Right.
life is hard.
Your
enough.
thighs. How dare you? You know, right? So it's about you.
No
It's
wonder
about
you don't like your body, Isaac.
I know. Of course,
You went to
between
the wrong-
fashion
the wrong
models.
students. No one stopped them.
I know.
Between fashion models and ballet dancers,
Right.
like, who could like their
So
own body?
brutal. Yeah.
Exactly.
No.
How would you like to die?
I think in my sleep. I mean, how would everybody like to die? Wouldn't you like to die in your sleep? I mean, who's going to say, I want to be drawn and quartered for 3 days? Because it's going to hurt that
We
much.
haven't had that yet.
You know what I mean? It's
We
like,
have
who's
one
gonna
last
say,
full experience
like,
of life.
Exactly.
Right.
If
Go
I
out.
had one
with a
wish,
bang.
I would be tortured in the eyeball for 7 days until I die. I mean, like, what are you talking about? I just want to, like, go to sleep and die.
Make it quick. Yeah.
Right. And not know that I'm dying,
Yeah.
probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I would like to be put under, or I would like to be put under by the vet who put Harry down, because she did such an excellent
Gentle.
job. Gentle, and he was like, on stuff, and then he got the stuff and he went out.
I don't think vets are allowed to do that with people.
I know, euthanasia.
No, right?
Right?
That sucks.
And just
boy.
check
That
yourself in.
really
I'm
sucks.
next.
Yeah, unless it's a really dodgy vet. Bathroom, veterinary.
Exactly.
What is your motto?
Well, I mean, I don't really have a motto. What is the etymology of the word motto? Can you tell me? Where does it come from?
That's a good question. It does. I mean, it doesn't sound Latinate or Greek
It
based
doesn't.
to me,
Doesn't
except
sound.
that mo, M-O-T,
Mo.
the French word for mo,
Word.
you know,
Yeah,
is
exactly.
But I don't know that that's the etymology, so I don't know.
Look it up.
It's also like moto, like motorcycle, like moto
Right,
jacket.
moto
Yeah,
jacket.
exactly. What's my motto? I think, like, you know, never bored, never boring. How's that?
Fabulous.
Is that
great.
okay?
It's
I bet
great.
everyone says that.
No, they don't.
Never bored, never boring.
No.
Actually, it's funny that some people are so invested and have really kind of fretted over this, to use a Jane Austen word.
Yeah.
And said, well, let me think, let me get back to you. Wait, I have one. I can't remember it right now.
Courage
It's like
is
as
blah,
if
blah.
they live
Exactly.
by it. Is it they wake up and then
Yeah.
courage is what?
Yeah, and it's something
Yeah.
about courage.
I
But
know.
Yeah.
please.
Valor, truth.
Courage
and-
is overrated as well, I think. But.
So we add a question to this questionnaire, which is
What I adore is that you have some of them highlighted, and
Oh.
they're not even the ones that you're asking. It's just so
we move
random.
around.
Oh, no, they actually
Oh, do you?
are.
Oh,
yeah,
we
But
try.
we do try to
Okay,
move
but
around,
it
yeah.
would be
We
so
try.
you to just have like certain
Random
things
ones.
highlighted.
Like,
Exactly.
I'll be really curious to see what Isaac has to say about his motto.
Exactly.
But I did not see the
Like,
Christy Turlington
if we don't
bit
get to
coming.
this one, we're in trouble.
exactly.
Exactly.
I know. Let's skip. I
Weird
was going to skip
Post-its
this
and
one.
arrows.
I know
Yeah.
it's so funny.
Who would you like to see or hear respond to this questionnaire? A person. It's better if they're living for us. Much easier to do.
I think it should be Grace Jones.
Oh my God, fully.
That would
Born
be
in Jamaica,
so
raised in America. Exactly.
amazing. All right.
Okay.
All right, we got it.
We got it.
You got,
We got
you
it.
liked
That's fantastic.
That would be
Isaac
incredible.
Mizrahi.
She was a very formative presence in my life when I was 17 years old.
I could tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was. No,
I
actually,
know,
there was a
well, me too.
remix of Slave to the Rhythm that was about
Oh,
an hour
darling,
long that
of
someone
course.
made for me and gave to me on a tape.
Wow.
I'd never seen her in
Hours
anything like
of
this.
pleasure.
Yes.
Hours of
That
pleasure.
should be a great one.
That seems very German somehow, too.
It's very French and German.
Yeah.
It
But she was
is.
produced
Well, it's
in
very,
France.
it's very
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
European.
It's
Yeah.
very European.
Scare quotes.
Exactly right.
So we had
I
a
quote, love you.
I'm like turning into Nico Muley.
but
It's
Oh,
like,
yeah, he's
all these like every other word is like
is a scare quote.
Exactly.
But it's actually a European idea
Idea.
and fantasy of America,
of
Right.
course,
which is interesting. But
also black people.
Black
But also,
Yeah.
let's say, like, just to pay tribute to Jessie Norman, who just
Oh.
passed away, who started her career in Germany because
Mm-hmm.
she was booked at the Munich Opera and had a huge success because she wasn't being booked, guess where, in America.
Right.
Of course.
In 69. So, in some ways, there is that weird coming back from Europe
Josephine
as a black
Baker.
artist
Yeah.
Yes.
and to make it in America when America wasn't exactly accommodating.
Jimi
She said the
Hendrix.
greatest
Yeah.
thing in the
Right.
world.
Started, I think, touring in Europe.
Jessie Norman said the greatest thing in the world at the Council of Fashion Designers, like, honored her, again, quotes, honored her for being so stylish or something. It was so ridiculous. And she got up and she was like, I'm not kidding, this was her whole speech. Oh, thank you very much for this award I didn't even know I wanted. That's what she said. Isn't that so incredible? And she meant it. Like, she didn't apologize. She just said that and walked off. It was great, right?
That's being Jessie
That
Norman.
is star quality.
Right
darling.
there.
Star quality.
Oh, I wish we could have gotten her for this podcast.
I mean, it's probably done somewhere.
Yeah.
Don't you think she
Possibly.
answered the Cruise questionnaire? If you look in the annals of Vanity Fair or
Could we
something.
cobble it together from recorded sentences?
Could-
she
Oh,
said?
exactly. Exactly. In
Pretending.
different languages.
Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
saw her perform in Berlin in 1989, I think. Someone gave us tickets. We sat behind the stage in the Philharmonic on these cheap little chairs. There were 50 minutes of applause. She left
Oh,
the
God.
room, changed her
Wow.
outfit, walked back in.
And they
people
were
were
still
applauding.
clapping.
It
Wow,
was so-
that's confidence.
it was deeply moving. But it was also the Berlin audience because she actually said something that I had my start in Germany. So for me, it's very moving and important to be back here. And I didn't really know. I was sort of, okay, who is this?
Amazing.
And then people were sort of, it was kind of a relationship between the audience and the star.
Mm-hmm.
She was grateful to them. And they showed the appreciation for 50 minutes. 5-0.
5-0.
5-0. It was really odd. I thought, okay, this is not, people can't be clapping.
And she wasn't retiring.
No, she walked out and came back in a different outfit.
Oh my
I
God.
like that
Different
part,
wig.
actually.
That's the best. Yeah.
Amazing.
I know.
Because also, I'm sure that it wasn't
wasn't
like a quick change into sweatpants. Like where
Not
you can,
so much.
You know,
No, it wasn't.
pull 'em
It wasn't
on.
a kimono.
Right.
It wasn't Lululemon. No, it wasn't.
It wasn't a feather trimmed kimono.
A feather, although she
Although-
probably had some of those.
You know, you think of like Lily Langtry or something like, you know,
Oh,
going
yeah.
off and taking her corset off and coming out. Oh, are you still here?
This whole thing. This whole thing.
So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. It was really
Thank
fun.
you,
It
Isaac.
was
We
the highlight
knew.
of my week.
Great. For us, too.